Hello, this is your match preview for Manchester United versus FC Copenhagen in the Champions League. And this is a must-win for Manchester United. And I know I say this an awful lot, and over the last few weeks we've been, pretty much saying the same thing given how poorly we've been playing. But this really is a must-win. Manchester United sit bottom of the Champions League table on 0 points. So we have to win, or it's curtains for our Champions League campaign, you would have to say. So, look, we've got plenty to discuss tonight, and of course, get your thoughts into the comment section as always. But I think, a couple of different things that I want to talk about tonight. First and foremost, I want to talk about lack of creativity within the squad. And second of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about maybe the balance of the team with potentially a left back coming back. Is it going to help us, and so on and so forth. But we'll do it all. We'll get through all of that. We're going to talk about my predicted 11 as well, and score predictions and all of that good stuff. So like I said, please do smash a like on the video. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, and get your comments in below. But look, we're going to start straight away with I suppose balance, and we've spoke about it over the last few weeks that the team has seemed a little bit unbalanced, and it's in no small part to the injuries that Manchester United have had at the moment, and over the last few weeks. But it looks like we are getting players back, albeit we do still have a number of key players, that still have to come back and might not be back for a while. I'm talking Luke Shaw, I'm talking Martinez, I'm talking Wan-Bissaka, these types of players. But by all accounts, Sergio Reguilon is going to be available for the game tomorrow night. He trained all week with Manchester United. I think supposedly he had a little bit of an illness, which is why he wasn't selected for the Sheffield United game on the weekend. But it's good that we are getting him back. Now, look, I don't mind what left back we've got at all, because any left back will do me at this stage, because I think we've been quite unbalanced since we've got all of them injuries to defence. We've seen, obviously, Lindelof has played at full back a couple of times, just kind of covering. And look, while I do think that Lindelof can, without a doubt, cover that position, he's not a natural fullback, and I think it unbalances the team. I think it gives us a lack of options going up that left-hand side. And I was thinking about this today, and I would like to know maybe what you think. Marcus Rashford has had a lot of criticism this season, and his performances haven't been up to scratch. But is there maybe a argument there that he hasn't had a established left back playing with him on a consistent basis? We do know last season that himself and Luke Shaw, really connected well and formed a good bond and a good partnership together. They know each other inside out. And Reguilon, I think, picked up the mantle there once Luke Shaw was out and Malacia was injured. I think two of them together played really well. And I've seen, especially with Reguilon, I thought his underlapping was very good. His energy levels, getting on the outside as well. And they seem to have been kind of sparking up a bit of a bond with one another. Now, look, again, that's just maybe an observation that I've maybe thought about over the last couple of days. Also, look, we have seen as well that Sofyan Amrabat has played there as well on a number of occasions when he first came in for his first couple of games. And that in turn then threw off the balance of the entire team, because what happened is you've got, Casemiro was injured, or he wasn't playing too well at the start of the season, and basically we needed the likes of Amrabat in midfield with him. It then had a trickle-down effect. So we had, on the right-hand side, you had maybe Mason Mount covering on the right for a couple of games, and the whole midfield was thrown into disarray. And I think once we do get players back in key positions like that, and we can have natural players in their natural positions, I think we will find, hopefully, a bit more form, but certainly more balance to the team. I really do believe that. And I think that left-back area has been key for that as well. Let's see what people are saying here. Tomorrow, end of my work day with a little Jack Daniels. That is appreciated, Chris. Kiefer said, Sancho back, question mark. No reports on Sancho being back. So basically what happened was a reporter in the interview today with Ten Hag asked him about, players being back, so on and so forth, and he said Sergio Reguilon, and somehow the Sky Sports reporter picked it up as Jadon Sancho, and they were actually reporting it on Sky Sports that Sancho was going to return to the squad. And they knew that they actually had made a mistake, but rather than correcting themselves, they just stuck with the story. So Sancho is not back. He hasn't apologised. He's still exiled, and he's still out of the squad. Chris says Reguilon is not going to help the stagnant play up front. Yeah, you could be right. Absolutely, I completely understand what you're saying, Chris, and I do want to talk about the lack of creativity that we're going to get onto in a few minutes, because I certainly do think that plays a big role. But I do think Reguilon will allow us more balance within the team. We will have a fullback playing at fullback, linking up with Marcus Rashford on the left-hand side. That can only be a positive. It really can. If you look at, and I know Delo got a worldie the other night, but if you look at Wan-Bissaka before he got injured and on the back end of last season, there was a huge improvement in him. His link-up play up that right-hand side was good. His crossing was good. His decision-making was massively improved. So all of these things are factors. And while they might not be big factors individually, I think as a collective, I think it does make a big difference with the team and maybe how we do play. Let's see. Oshin is in, good to see you. Chris says we need to be making runs in the attacking third. People need to make runs for other people, unselfish runs, a run to space, run to open space for somebody else. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree, 100%. I really do. What channel is it on? Says Alfonso. I'll be watching it on TNT anyway, which is now used to be called BT Sports. But yeah, I did want to touch on as well what's Oshin saying here. Reguilon was possibly our best player before he got injured, showed more passion than the other 10 combined. I agree, absolutely. And Chris says, never once do we take the ball to the end line with our wingers to serve it back to middle as everyone has done to us. Again, I do agree. I absolutely do. Gary, thanks for the follow-up. Much appreciated. Keep smashing the like button, guys, if you haven't already done so. But yeah, look, I mean, when we're talking about defence, and I get onto my predicted 11 in a short while, but let's talk about Harry Maguire for a minute, because, he's played really well for United in the past maybe 2 or 3 games that he's played, and credit where credit is due. I think he was our best player. He was deservedly man of the match against Sheffield United the other night. I thought he was really good, and I think this is probably another game that you could afford to play Harry Maguire. Will Varane come back in? That remains to be seen. Obviously, we've got a huge game on the weekend against Man City. So is Erik ten Hag thinking, will I keep him for Man City, or, will I get him back in now? To be honest with you, I wouldn't be overly concerned with either option, I have to say. But again, you would hope that Copenhagen will be the type of team where you can play Harry Maguire. You would hope that Manchester United will have the majority of possession, and Copenhagen will be in their own half. We can play maybe a deeper line, and I think that's when Harry Maguire does thrive, and I think maybe that's why he had such a good game against Sheffield United. There wasn't an awful lot of pressure on him. So a lot of things to be positive about, I would say. Of course, the negatives are there, and we've been speaking about negatives, all of the time. But let's not get too carried away. I don't think Harry Maguire is going to play against Man City on the weekend. I don't think he's up to it. He's not good enough. He's not the long-term option or solution. And I think probably the quicker Man United and Harry Maguire part ways, the better. But it can only be a positive for United that he's playing well. One is because, we're short on numbers, so we need players that come in to actually play well. And 2, if he is to leave in January or in the summer, having good games and a run of good games like this can only add to his value as well. So, but I do think he'll more than likely start tomorrow night. I really do. But again, I mean, there's a lot of options there. Varane, does he come back in? Does Lindelof, if Reguilon is back, does Lindelof automatically move into centre back? Who does he play with? So we do have options there. Obviously, Lisandro Martinez is the main one that's missing. But, we've still got 4 centre-backs that we can call upon. albeit two of them are Evans and Harry Maguire. Let's see. When do we put the lack of attacking prowess on Erik ten Hag, says Chris. I think you can put it on him now. But I wouldn't be solely laying the blame on him. Let's look, for example, at the attacking prowess of the team. So let's go from midfield through to the attacking options. Okay, if we go to midfield, Bruno Fernandes, probably our best player over the last 4 years, 3-4 years, however long he's been at the club, consistently. Christian Eriksen, I think the few times that Christian Eriksen has come on in the last few games for United, and especially against Sheffield United the other night, I thought he instantly changed the game for us. We instantly had more control. We instantly started creating an awful lot more with Eriksen on the field. Now, look, we all know that Eriksen's inability is with the physicality aspect of his game and the fact that he's probably not up for 90 minutes that often. So that's a positive from me. Now, if we go to, and that's an Erik ten Hag signing on a free, by the way. Now, makeshift signing, you would say, with the lack of proper backing that Erik ten Hag has got in terms of getting his first choice options. I'm not saying he hasn't been backed before any of the opposition fans jump down my throat. He has been backed, but he hasn't got his first choice options nearly, I would say, 90% of the time. So if we go to the forward areas then, Marcus Rashford is already at the club, and we know his inconsistencies have been there long before Erik ten Hag has been there. Anthony on the right-hand side, that's something that we can lay the blame at Erik ten Hag's feet with. But again, it's only his second season. He's got a lot of distractions so far this season, so I am willing to give him more time. Rasmus Højlund is a very good footballer and is not getting any service. So, there's nothing much that can be blamed, that Erik ten Hag can be blamed with there. Anthony Martial has been around now for 1, 2, 3, 4 managers, technically 5 managers, and we can't get him off the books. So, there's a lot of players. Look, Donny van de Beek, for example, still there, tried to get rid of him. Scott McTominay, still there, tried to get rid of him. He's drastically improved Garnacho, for example. So, look, while Erik ten Hag does have to take a lot of the blame, some of the players that are there have to take the blame for their inconsistencies that they've had long before Erik ten Hag has got to the club. And also, some of the blame has to be laid at board level as well. What an unbelievable goal by Spurs, by the way. James Maddison is just after making the 2-0. So I think there's blame to be laid at a lot of areas. Ten Hag's certainly one of them. Players and board level. I think board level for the lack of negotiating skills that we do hold at board level, where Erik ten Hag just cannot get the players that he wants. We look at the summer just gone. Oh, Son is offside. No, he's onside. We look at the summer just gone. Ten Hag wanted Harry Kane, didn't get him. He wanted Declan Rice, didn't get him. He wanted Kim Min-jae, didn't get him. They're 3 unbelievable players that make up the spine of your team. What do we get? We got Rasmus Højlund. While he's going to be a good footballer, I'm under no doubts he's very young. We got Sofyan Amrabat on loan, and we got no centre-back. But it's all Erik ten Hag's fault. I don't know. You know what I mean? That's just my point. Oshin says, we all took the piss when he said he'd fight for his place. He's not proved is wrong yet, but he's getting there, says Oshin. That's in relation to Harry Maguire. I agree. Copenhagen took it to Bayern much better than we did, says Chris. Yep, they did. Maguire has played well against Brentford and Sheffield United. Did I watch a different game? McBurney missed a sitter walking through Maguire. No, I would disagree with that. Maguire came out and made a clearance, and the ball was played in behind after he made his clearance, if I remember that correctly. Oshin says, Erik ten Hag is very slow historically to put lads straight back into the first 11, so I wouldn't be surprised if we started with a similar back 4 on Saturday. Yeah, you could be right there, Oshin, absolutely. Chris says, I'm thinking about attacking prowess as more of an identity of what we want to do when we are in attacking third. No system or idea or what he wants. I'm sure he knows what he wants. Erik ten Hag knows exactly how he wants his football team to play. And I go back to it. There's too many players left over from previous eras that have got 3-4 managers sacked now. Martial, Marcus Rashford, fucking Scott McTominay, Harry Maguire. You could even go as far as saying the likes of Luke Shaw, Diogo Dalot. These are all players left over from a previous era. So, while I do take your point, how long did it take Mikel Arteta, for example, to really mould the team to play the way he wants them to play with players that he trusts? 3-4 seasons. So that's all my point. I'm under no hurry to start putting any pressure on Erik ten Hag. Absolutely no way. If Ten Hag's in-game management was more ruthless, even we can identify it watching at home, then he wouldn't face as much criticism as he is. By all accounts, Martial is a Glazers' favourite. He ain't going nowhere. Apparently a move was blocked last summer. Yeah, I know. Depressing. And Chris says, I hear what you're saying. It's hard for me to believe these guys aren't doing what he wants or even show something. Let's see what people are saying on TikTok here as well. Kyle says, should have bought Osman when you had a chance. Kyle, you're talking through your arse because nobody had a chance to buy Osman when he was valued at 150 million. Napoli weren't selling. VB says, how do you say hi? I don't know what that's all about. Let's see. City will be a dead loss, says Jarvis. Brian says, Harry will play. We have no one else. Lindelof is terrible, says Brian. User says, just joined. Opinions on Sir Jim instead of Qatar. I had a TikTok up about it today in relation to that. And I am more positive now than I was when it was first announced. For me, the negative is obviously the Glazers are still there, but I don't think Jim will be a bad owner if he gets complete control of the footballing side of the club. I just don't. I don't think it could be any worse than what we've seen over the last 10 years. So I think it's a positive. And if reports are to be believed that within 3 years he will own it completely, then brilliant. But there are questions to be asked. He is over the age of 70. What happens, God forbid, when he passes away? Where does the club go? Does it go to Ineos? Does it go back up for sale? These questions have to be asked and answered. So let's see what happens. Let's see. Christopher says, have to mention Garnacho performance. His work rate is top quality. I completely agree. Yeah, I think Garnacho has been quality. And I'll get into my predicted 11 in a moment. I do want to touch on briefly, guys, about the lack of creativity going forward. And, we've touched on it a little bit here as well. I think it's a big concern for United. And I think the lack of creativity, we haven't got a lot of creative players within our team. I think that's the problem. And when Bruno has a game where he doesn't create much, we're in big trouble. And I mentioned it in the Talking Points video yesterday. Go check it out, by the way. That we create pretty much zero from wide areas. And when I'm wide areas, I mean the likes of Marcus Rashford and the likes of Anthony. I think Anthony was better than Rashford on the weekend against Sheffield United. I think he put some good crosses into the box. He linked up well with Dalot for the initial cross that led to the first goal. But I'm concerned about the lack of creativity going forward for United, because over the last few games, I've spent big portions of each game actually watching the movement of Rasmus Højlund, and it is fucking unbelievable. His movement is top quality. He never stops moving. He's always on the move in the box. He's always trying to get into the areas, space, to get a strike away. And we're just not finding him. We're not picking him out. Marcus Rashford is running into dead ends with his head down, not looking up. And Anthony on the other side likes to cut in on his left foot rather than actually going to the end line and getting his head up and looking at where, say, Rasmus Højlund is. Is he cutting back? Is he getting to the front post? These types of these types of movements. So it's a big area of concern for me. Now, what do we do about that? Do you bring in a Mason Mount on the right-hand side? Because we know he's well able to create, and that's the style of football that he plays, because I don't think he's going to take Bruno Fernandes's position. Do you bring Eriksen back into midfield? Because we know Christian Eriksen can create out of nothing. He really can. But then you're sacrificing physicality within your team, and you're sacrificing maybe having to make a substitution on 60 minutes because we know he's not going to last that long. So there are options there, but it's what options are correct, to be quite honest with you, because I think Bruno Fernandes playing on his own in midfield beside maybe Amrabat and Scott McTominay like the other night, Bruno's the only one that can create. Out of the 6 players from midfield and the 3 up front, he's the only one that can really create. Scott McTominay couldn't create an idea, and Amrabat is a defensive midfielder, so we're not expecting him to get up and create. And then our wide men are poor at doing it. So I think something may need to be addressed in that area. Do you play Christian Eriksen more? Do you bring Mason Mount in on that right-hand side? Because both of them are the types of players that can create more than anything else, And it's been quite evident. I mean, the evidence is there about this. We've scored we had one of the worst goal scoring records last season. Our goal difference was terrible. And what kept us in the race for top 4 and trophies and so on and so forth was our rock solid defence. And this season, again, the goals continued to be hard come by, but our defence is starting to leak a little bit. And of course, we've had injuries there, so I think that's why we're struggling so far this season. But the consistent, the consistency that we're seeing here is United not scoring goals and not creating enough chances to score goals. And that's a big concern for me. Let's see. Ben says, we don't have an identity yet, whether it's Ten Hag covering places for injuries and not letting people lose or loose up top because he don't trust what we have at the minute is to be seen. Yeah, I agree. I think, again, I don't want to be making excuses about injuries all of the time, but the injuries do play a big role, in my opinion. Chris says, I know Sheen will like this statement. If Potter comes in, I will disappear. Please, no Potter. Yeah, so a bullshit story. This is nonsense. Supposedly, Jim Radcliffe would, if he did take over at Manchester United and he decided that Erik Ten Hag was to leave, it would be Graham Potter that would take his place. I think it's absolute nonsense, to be honest. First and foremost, Jim Radcliffe hasn't taken over the club yet. Second of all, he doesn't know whether he's going to keep Erik Ten Hag or not. And third of all, how the fuck do we know that he wants Graham Potter? I mean, he's under an NDA about buying the club. Why is he going to be talking about a manager that he could potentially employ if Erik Ten Hag doesn't, improve results? It's absolute nonsense, to be honest. Oshin says we need to keep Bruno central and build a midfield attack around that. Chris says Bruno has shown this year that he doesn't want to hold the ball. I agree. Bruno needs an honest run of playing the number 10. Kiefer says, I personally think Martial would link better with Højlund than Rashford. Rashford is lazy, again, walking around with his head down, looking miserable. You have a good point. Martial's link-up play is very good. Absolutely it is. So I think you could be onto something there. But again, the trouble with Martial is he has 1 or 2 really good games and then he's lazy for a month and a half, Ben says it's back to the start again. Play your strongest players in the right position and build around it. And Aaron says Garnacho and Pellistri for creating. Sorry for the spelling. No, yeah, absolutely. I think Garnacho and Pellistri, I wouldn't be putting the pressure on them to create an awful lot. But I think Garnacho specifically, I think his decision making is very good. Kay O'Grady says, we need to win tomorrow. We must win tomorrow. We have to win, but we won't win. All right. Okay. Sean says, therefore put Anthony on the bench, Mason on the right, and Eriksen used more to feed our blonde assassin. I think that's probably the best thing to do. I really do. Yeah, I really do. Anything to be said for playing Martial, Eric Ten Hag, or sorry, anything to be said for playing Martial with Højlund in a, I don't know, 4-4-2 formation? Yeah, we know you love that 4-4-2, Oisín. I wouldn't be against it, to be honest with you. Anyway, guys, look, let's move it on and let's go through my predicted 11 because obviously we've got a game coming up tomorrow night. Let me know your predicted 11 in the comment section below. 1 to 11. Let me know. Get your predicted 11 in. I'm going to put mine up on the screen here. Anybody that's watching on TikTok, we've got it all up on the screen over on YouTube. If you want to pop over and check it out over there, link is on my homepage, or just search United Community Channel on YouTube. Head over there, hit subscribe, and get involved. This is going to be my starting 11, guys. My predicted, I won't say predicted 11. This is the 11 that I would like to see, and that there's one or two changes that could potentially happen here. And it all depends on whether Reguilón is fit or not. I've predicted this 11 with him not starting on the basis of maybe keeping him as fit as possible for Sunday's game. But again, we can change that up either. So I've gone with Onana in goal. I've gone with a back four of Lindelof, Dalot, Maguire and Varane. And I put Lindelof at right back, but you can easily just switch him over to left back. That was just an admin error. But look, this back five, you would say, I think is it's probably our strongest at the moment. Again, depending on whether Reguilón is fit or not. But I think Lindelof done a decent job at fullback. He's not a fullback, and he won't be the long-term solution to our fullback problem at the moment. But I think that back four is strong enough to potentially get a clean sheet. I do. Varane coming back in. Harry Maguire, like we've mentioned already, deserves to keep his place. And I could see Reguilón coming in there and maybe Lindelof slotting in instead of Maguire. But to be honest with you, I think it would be really harsh if Maguire was dropped. I have to say it, because he's played quite well in the last few weeks. So that's my back four. In midfield then, I'm going to go with Amrabat, Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes. And obviously this is now Casemiro did train today. I don't know if he's going to be available or not. I'm going on the basis that he's not. So that would be my midfield three, and I think it's as close to the midfield three of obviously Casemiro, Bruno and Eriksen that we got last season, and I thought that was quite balanced. And I think, for that reason, I'm going to go with it like this. I think Amrabat, we seen on the weekend against Sheffield United that when Christian Eriksen came onto the field, all of a sudden we had balance, and Amrabat could just focus on the defensive aspect of the game, and his game improved an awful lot from when Eriksen came onto the field. And Bruno is Bruno. We need Bruno to create. We need him to be on form. We need 3 points, so it has to be done. And a forward line then, I've gone with a forward line of Antony on the right, Garnacho on the left and Højlund through the middle. Now this does mean that Marcus Rashford drops to the bench, so this is what I would like to see. I think it's time that Rashford takes a seat. I think he's been really, really poor this season. What have we played? Have we played 9 games in the league, I think, and then a few Champions League games as well. So I think it's time for him to take a seat. And probably another reason for that is he going to be dropped for the Manchester Derby on the weekend? Probably not. And the reason for that is that City play a high line. What does Marcus like to do? He likes to get in behind. So there's a number of different reasons for that. So obviously that one. And then also I think Garnacho deserves a start. He's played really well when he's come on the last few games. And he is doing really well as an impact substitution. And the pressure is off him from a starting standpoint. And I think that's probably the reason why we're seeing improved performances from him. We've seen at the start of the season that his performances were quite poor when he started. The first 2 games of the season, he was terrible. So I would be happy with that. And then, of course, Rasmus Højlund up front. Now, look, I mean, there is other options. Some people have been mentioning Anthony Martial, and, I could see potentially him doing a job on the left-hand side maybe, because we're talking about his link-up play. You're not going to get much defensive work from him. That's the thing. So, look, we mention this all the time, don't we? That options are a great thing. And we now have, or we're now starting to get more options in different positions. You know, midfield and up front, we've got basically a full strength squad. It's just in defence that we're paper thin. So that's my starting lineup. Let me know yours in the comment section below. A couple of people putting them in here. Gordon says, curious how the players are training. Are they having difficulty stringing passes together like what we saw last game? Yeah, it is a worry, Gordon. I won't deny it. Oshin says, given his starting 11, Onana, Delot, Maguire, Lindelof, Reguilon, Amrabat, Bruno, McTominay, and then Rashford, Anthony, and Højlund. We need a win. Got to go as strong as possible, even with Saturday in mind. Chris, his starting 11 is Onana, Delot, Varane, Maguire, Reguilon, Amrabat, Eriksen, Bruno, Rashford, Højlund, and Martial. And Ben's starting 11 is Onana, Delot, Maguire, Lindelof, Reguilon, Amrabat, Bruno, Hannibal, Garnacho, Pelestri, Højlund. Okay, there we go. Big changes there, bringing in a lot of youth. I like it. Oshin says, options are good as long as they are the right options. Spot on, man. Spot on. Let's see what people are saying. Are you heading over tomorrow, says Michael? I'm not, Michael. I just obviously had a 10-day-old baby, so my Old Trafford trips. I'm going to one before Christmas, and that's the Bayern Munich game. I can't miss that one. I just can't. She's out there. I just can't miss it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So going to that one, and then of course maybe the new year. If we do get out of the group stages, then I'll see how we're fixed for last 16, quarter-final, semi-final, because I'll have tickets to the home games of them if we get that far. So let's hope we do. Paul says, yeah, I agree. We need to drop Rashford and start Garnacho. Sarge says, I want to ask if Manchester United any players. Not sure what that means. Dave says, I flew from Cork today for the game tomorrow. Been to the Trinity and signed the condolence book. So sad. Fair play, Dave. Fair play, man. Congratulations on the Baba. Appreciate it. He's doing great. Little Harry points. Anyway, let's get into score predictions, guys, before we finish up. Get your score predictions in as well. Let me know what you think the score is going to be tomorrow night. Like I said, you know, even with that starting 11 that I've got on the screen there, I do think that just give me one sec. I do think that we should have enough to get the job done. I do think so. Now again, look, we're struggling to score goals, but we're playing quite well in relation to defence. So I think can we keep a clean sheet? I think we can. Will we keep a clean sheet? We may not. But I think we should. If I'm going with a score prediction for tomorrow night, I'm going to go with a 2-0 win to Manchester United. I think we'll keep a clean sheet. And I think we'll score a couple of goals. If we're going with goal scores, I'm going to go Rasmus Højlund to do it again in the Champions League. And I'm going to go with Alejandro Garnacho. Let's see. Oshin says, does the ticket cover Europa if we parachute down? Yeah, it does. So basically the season ticket price only covers the 3 Champions League group stage games. You're guaranteed them. And every other game then, whatever the cup competition is, you're guaranteed your home ticket for that in the same seat. And the money is taken out of your account at a discounted rate. So that's how it works. But yeah, if we go to the Europa League, if we drop down to the Europa League, I'll automatically be involved in that as well. Spurs nearly scored a third. Anyway, let me see what people are saying. Ben is going 3-0 to United. Oshin is going 3-1. Chris is going 3-2. Getting gradually worse there with the 3 boys. Kiefer's going 2-0. Highland brace. Like to see it. Lake Garnacho winner, says Chris as well. Let's see what people on TikTok have gone with. Craig says easy 5-0 win. Shane goes 3-0 to United tomorrow. Craig 5-0. Let's see. Rasmus Højlund hat-trick. Garnacho and a defender. And A Liverpool fan is in saying 7-0 to Copenhagen. Of course. Of course. Anyway, guys, look, we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. Do smash the like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already done so. Like I said, on the road to 5,000 subscribers. We're trying to get it done before Christmas. If anybody on TikTok hasn't subscribed to the YouTube channel, click the link on my homepage. The YouTube button is right there. Help us out. Hit subscribe to the YouTube channel. It helps us out an awful lot. But please do just hit the like button. Like I said, that helps us out more than anything else. Like I said, we will be back for the game tomorrow. Kickoff is 8 o'clock. I just want to double check that it is 8 o'clock. I'm pretty certain it is. 8 o'clock kickoff. So we'll be live from 7:30 tomorrow night for the watch along. Please do join us. Have a great evening. Stay safe. And I'll catch you tomorrow. Take it easy.